What's up? Welcome to the Unruly Podcast. You know what it is. I'm your host, Rashawn. I appreciate you rocking with me. Like and subscribe if you feel compelled or if you feel the pressure from me. Please like and subscribe. Why you ain't liking and subscribing? Nah. Do what you want to do, man. I'm just here in hopes that there's something that I say or there's something that I can do to inspire you to begin living life the way God wants you to live it, with purpose, with intentionality, and with selflessness. You know, as I think about my life and I think about the journey it's been, because that's what life is, right? Life is life is a journey. Life is not just one thing. Life is a culmination of many things and many miracles and many experiences. And it's this beautiful like collage of things that have happened. And sometimes you have to sit down just to see how good God has been, just to look back and appreciate His grace and His protection and His goodness. And, you know, I was doing that a couple of months ago, and I realized that I'm currently living the very life and lifestyle that I prayed for years ago. Like I prayed for this, and maybe you can agree with that. Maybe you're living right now. There's somebody listening to this or somebody watching this that you prayed for where you're at right now. Like yeah, you did. Like you prayed for this job that you have. You did. Like you prayed for the spouse that you have, and you're like, no, I ain't praying for that spouse. He or she doing this. No. You prayed for this person to come into your life. Like you prayed for the kids that you have. And if you're not careful, if you don't choose what you're focusing on, your blessing can begin looking like a burden. Like your blessing, all the things that you prayed for, if you're not careful with your perspective, your blessing can look like a burden. And that's not even the point that I'm trying to get you. What I'm trying to get you right now is like I'm in a position that I prayed for. I said, God, I want to impact people. And I believe you've called me to do that. I believe that you've gifted me with the intangibles, with the skill set to impact people, to inspire people, to challenge them to be better. You've given me that, God, and I want to steward that well. Help me to be able to travel and connect with people and organizations. Help me to be able to pour into the lives of men. Help me to be able, with my wife, to pour into other couples via marriage calls, etc. And I'm living the life that I prayed for. But I also remember being the young man who was afraid to really go for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember being the young man that was afraid to really take that leap into where I'm at right now. I remember wanting to hold on to certain, I don't know, like security and safety and comfort. I remember hearing a quote at a conference one time. I said, man, the comfort zone is tempting because it's a beautiful place. But nothing good ever grows there. Nothing good ever grows in the comfort zone. Nothing worth having is going to come to you while you're in this bubble. You got to get out of it. But I was afraid, right? Like I was afraid there was fear. And if we're being honest, all of us have fear in certain areas. Maybe you want a new job. But you feel like if you apply for the new job and don't get it, you'll be disappointed and you'll lack confidence. Or maybe it's not a new job that you want. Maybe you're single and you've been watching that man or woman and they look good and you're like attracted to them and you've heard good things about them and you want to shoot your shot, but you're afraid of getting turned down. Or you want to get a new home, but you don't want to apply because you're afraid of getting turned down. Whatever it is that has you fearful, the fear is trying to convince you to stay put. That was me. I was fearful. And when I think back about it, like I didn't have this terminology then, because hindsight's 2020. It's easy for me to go back and recognize exactly what I was walking through and exactly what it was that I did to make the shift. But there was something that happened, and I believe it was subconscious, but now I'm kind of giving voice and words to it. I had to replace a fear with a fear. What? Rashawn, what are you talking about? You had to replace a fear with the fear. No, I'm just telling you, I'm just being real. I'm telling you what worked for me. I had this inferior fear that what if I tried to do this thing? What if I try to go out on my own and start my own business? And who the hell am I to try to travel the world and speak and inspire and transform mindsets and be a coach and be an author and be a content creator? Who am I to do that? So I had this fear that, man, what if it doesn't work out? That was an inferior fear. But I had a superior fear to that inferior fear. Like, I had a fear that was much greater than the inferior fear of, like, what if it doesn't work out? And the superior fear is what took the place of the inferior fear. And that's what drove me. Rashawn, I'm trying to track with you. What are you saying? I'm saying I replaced the fear of what if I fail and what if it doesn't work out to the superior fear of what if I don't do it at all? What would it look like if I chose comfort? What would it look like if I chose safety? What would it look like if I let this inferior fear win? What if I never went after that thing that God has purposed me to do? What would that look like in 10 years? Like, what would it look like in 10 years if God has called me to impact people and inspire people and preach the gospel and travel and then pour into to marriages with my wife? What if we didn't do that? Then I started to see the people going astray. I started seeing people who may be walking out of their marriages. I started seeing people who may even take their own life. I started seeing that, and that scared the hell out of me. Like, and not only seeing the people, but seeing myself live and wake up and have this gift of life, but me choosing to be comfortable. And then me resenting myself. And then I went even further into the future and said, what happens when you're 96 years old and bald and in the old person home and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what if I would have done it? What if I would have? I'm never going to be mad at the 30-year-old Rashawn for trying. But man, I could resent the 35 and the 40 and the 45 and the 50-year-old Rashawn who was too afraid to try. I had to replace the inferior fear with the superior fear, and that's what I want you to do. I don't know. What happens if you don't go after that young woman you've been seeing? I know you've been seeing her. You're single, and you got your stuff together, and you've been praying for God to send a woman into your life, and you see her and you feel led, but you're not shooting your shot. What happens if you don't? What happens if you get on Instagram this time next year and you see she's engaged now? Oh, my goodness. You'd be sick. What happens if you don't do that and y'all are supposed to have a family? What happens if you don't go after the new job? What happens if you all don't try for kids? I don't know where that's coming from. Because you all have had some miscarriages. Because you're afraid of what will happen if we try again and it doesn't work out. The pain of that. You don't know what it feels like, Rashawn, emotionally and spiritually. You don't know what it feels like. I know, but I just ask you, I plead with you, I beg you, just ask yourself, what happens if we don't try? What happens if we don't? What happens? What would it look like if we could have just had a family and it was just on this trial was going to change everything? What happens if we don't? I want you to ask yourself that no matter who you are, no matter where you listen from, no matter what you're walking through, can you just take a moment today and ask yourself, what if I don't go for those big God-given dreams in my life? And that's what I leaned into. And that's why I'm here right now. Not because I'm perfect, not because I'm without flaws, not because I haven't made any mistakes. I failed miserably, but I failed forward, and I failed into this seat right here. I failed into this microphone. I failed into this camera to look at you and tell you that you owe it to yourself, and much more importantly, you owe it to God to go after the things that he's put on your heart. I don't care those dreams, those desires, and I don't care how crazy it makes you sound when you say it out loud. The call that God put on your life wasn't a conference call. That's why everybody ain't hear it. That's why everybody doesn't understand it. He gave that thing to you, and you owe it to him. So I need you to replace that inferior fear of what if this happens, and ask yourself, what if I don't do it? There's nothing that hurts more than regret and living with it. And I'm just going to go for those things that God put on my heart. Because I believe with every fiber of my being that one person's obedience is connected to so many people's destinies. I just happen to believe that. I happen to believe that God put something down on the inside of me. I believe that God put something down on the inside of you, that your obedience today is connected to so many people's destiny tomorrow. So do yourself a favor and replace that inferior fear with the superior fear that says, if I don't do it. Their souls, lives, and legacies on the line. And I can't do that. So, hey, I appreciate you listening. Different kind of flow, different kind of show this week. But I hope that resonates with you. Until next time, you already know. Stay unruly and go be great.